What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock, how the overall market may actually dictate how NIO moves, and some very important things you have to watch for this week if you are trading in the stock market, if you're trading NIO or any ticker in particular, because this is going to affect everything. I'm going to be talking about the SPY and its effect on NIO and the rest of the market. Now, before I break anything down, before I get into any more details, I got to mention a couple of things before starting real quick. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. Not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is any could be a free NIO share, a free Tesla share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 1 week. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So looking at the market, guys, I want to talk about something very important. When we look at NIO, all right, NIO does not just move on its own. All right, it tends to be affected by the overall market. If you don't believe me, you could see that there is a connection between NIO and the SPY, but as of recent, NIO has been underperforming. But if we compare it to the QQQ, there is a similar story here, but look at how similar these things look when put side by side. I'm sure you guys can notice the similarities in how this market moves and how NIO is holding up. NIO has been showing more strength than before, but when you look at it, you could see that it has very similar trends to what we end up seeing in the NASDAQ. So anyways, what does this tell us about NIO? I also wanted to mention the fact that the NASDAQ has a tendency of being correlated with the SPY. And the way the SPY moves in turn is also going to affect how the overall market moves. And this tends to be correlated with the NASDAQ. So that means there is a connection that we can be making between the SPY and NIO. And let me just show you that. Look at the QQQ and the SPY here. Very similar trends as well from each of these. Right here, you guys can see almost perfect trend. It's very, very similar. And what I'm noticing on SPY now is, remember, it does affect the NIO, which is why I'm talking about it. Most people are over leveraged on the puts. The majority of investors, institutions, people, retail investors, they are actually heavily into puts. They believe that SPY is going to be coming down very soon. For the end of the week, next week, we have a 2.39 put to call ratio. This is like 2 puts for every call, or even more than that. That's crazy, right? That's so crazy. And when this many people are just on one side, what tends to happen is the market tends to do the opposite. The market tends to cause pain for these people. If everyone in the world was loading up on puts on one day, everyone's not going to be making money that easily, because the market's not easy to make money on. All right. The point I'm trying to make is the fact that this incentivizes the markets to hold up. This is part of the reason why the market held up on Friday, because remember on Friday there was a 2.1 put to call ratio for November 18th, and the market held up, right? It caused pain for these people loading up on puts, betting that the SPY is going to come crashing down. We didn't actually do that. So anyways, given the context right now, we don't have an FOMC meeting until 25 days or like 24 days from now, and we're most likely going to see a 50 basis point rate hike, and it's going to depend on CPI as well. And I'm talking about this because right now there is a lot of free time for the markets. Now, during this free time where the Fed is just not as involved, we have some speakers coming every now and then. There are different perspectives we could use about how the market may move for the future. And I'm going to talk about this using some technical analysis. So first off, let's look at the SPY. There are two main things that could be going on. There's a bullish and a bearish perspective. Are we going to continue pumping, or are we going to come down? Now, from a bullish perspective, you could argue that we could draw a trend line here and see this big uptrend being respected. And on top of that, you could argue that we might actually continue to pump and retest the upper trend line of the descending broadening wedge. And this is because of the fact that the majority of people are into puts, betting the market's going to crash, and the opposite could happen. So maybe some of these shorts could get squeezed out of their positions, right? You can argue that. And if the market does rally a bit, if the market continues to push, in order to know this, we have to watch SPY If SPY gets a clean break above 400 to 402, if we actually break and hold that level, we have a gap at like 406, 407. We could go for the gap fill and continue pumping. If that's the case, it's going to help NIO pump, guys. NIO is going to hit the 12s, the 13s, maybe even the 14s. It's going to start pumping. It has resistance around like the 11 to 12 zone, but we could even pump above this if the market is super bullish. However, there's something else you have to remember. All right. If SPY just holds up and it doesn't make like a big move, if it just holds the levels, NIO could also hold its range and push up just a little bit. It just won't be as crazy, which is why it's important to watch SPY in the QQQ. But there's also a bearish perspective on SPY. There's also a perspective that suggests that the market could end up taking a huge hit. I want to show that to you guys. Let's zoom out a bit, just like this. I want to use the 5 minute to be more meticulous. So I'm using a more meticulous chart. And as you guys can see, this whole thing started off with that big CPI report where we actually had a big beat on the numbers. And overall, the market had a huge gap to the upside. Market got a big rally. And now people are wondering, okay, are we going to continue to rally? Did we rally too hard? Some people who are bears, people who think the market is going to take a hit, could argue that this is resembling a Wyckoff distribution schematic that looks like this, right? If I take this, put them side by side, I'm sure you guys could see what I'm talking about. The push, the distribution, followed by another big push to the downside. And I can't promise anything, but one thing I could do is compare this to previous data. Did we see an event like this? Looking at SPY, I'm going to actually look at a different perspective, a very different time frame. Let's look at the 30-minute time frame. What you will notice is there is another moment where the market had a big rally like this. Wait, this isn't SPY, this is NIO. Hold on, SPY is right here. There we go, guys. Sorry about that. But anyways, going back to August on the 30-minute perspective, notice the trend that this thing was following right here. So first off, let's zoom out, look at the trend. Huge rally, then we have this distribution, right? It resembles this right here. We end up coming down, very similar to this. What you'll notice about this is the fact that overall, we had a very similar move. Notice how we had this big pump. This is like our center. We form almost like a head and shoulders like formation. We come down, then we have this mini rally. And this was a trap, which led to a bunch of downside. Right here. And then recently on SPY, what has SPY been doing? So we had that big pump that essentially led this big pump. It's about 402. We basically came down after that. And then if we look at it, it looks like this. And what else is very interesting about it is we could actually look at it from this perspective. We could actually see a similarity. All right, so I'm not promising anything. I just wanted to note that it's very possible for a move like that to happen. If we actually look at them side by side, for instance, you will also notice that there's a big similarity here, right? We have this pump followed by a big drop. And if you look on this side, right, big pump, are we about to drop? If you want to confirm it, SPY has to retest 390, and if we break below it, this thing is likely going to be 385, and break that, this thing can come all the way down to the 370s. If the market does that, NIO and these EVs, tech sector, they're all going to take a big hit if the market takes a huge hit like that. How do we know? Watch 390 on SPY. If we retest this demand zone, that's how you are going to get a good understanding. Do we see a lot of buyers right here? Do we bounce off 390? If we do, if we don't even like retest it and we just hold these levels and continue to push, this could help NIO. If this thing comes down and retests 390, all right, NIO and Tesla in the market, but do we hold it? Because if we break below 390, it's going to be even worse. And NIO could take a huge hit because of that. Now, if that's not the case, if we end up just continuing to push up the way we've been respecting this uptrend, we start retesting like 400, this thing could actually help NIO pump. And that's why you have to watch 400 to 402 for a more bullish perspective. For a more bearish perspective, watch 390. For NIO, what does this all tell us? If SPY pumps, the market pumps, NIO does have potential to end up continuing to hold, especially because Tesla has been oversold and that can help NIO. This thing could retest this upper trend line, maybe even break above it and break past the 12s, maybe retest even as high as 13. But if the market comes tumbling down really hard, if it truly does that, NIO has a giant gap around the low nines. It also has room to retest the $9 support zone. If this thing does end up coming down, if the whole market were to come down, that would likely be correlated with NIO coming down too, which is why you have to watch it very carefully. This is where the gap is right here. I just wanted to make this as clear as possible. So the bottom line is watch the market as well. Watch how SPY is performing too, because that will affect NIO overall. All right, guys? Watch Tesla as well. Maybe switch between them every now and then because these things are going to affect how NIO moves. But anyways, what I think is more likely to happen is because so many people are over leveraged on the put side on SPY, we're more likely to actually hold these levels. So I'm hoping that NIO holds, maybe gets a nice push up. I'm hoping for NIO to continue to push and get a retest of 11. And if we break it, there is potential for this thing to fill the gap around 11.5. So anyways, guys, that's what I have for this video. I'm going to make another video tomorrow where I give you guys my specific price prediction for just on Monday. But until then, this is what I have for this one. So please watch these levels. Be very cautious. This is my warning for everyone. It's very important. You know this. And with that out of the way, please have a great weekend. Thank you all for listening. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still very bright. I'm still very bullish long-term, regardless of all these, potential downside moves. And peace out.